Hey, Sav.
Hey Shay, and bonjour, brand connoisseurs. Welcome to the Art of Branding podcast on the Team SCG podcast network. So, Shay, rate your day without any context.
A 3.
A 3. Okay. Wow. That's
No context.
yeah, no context. No context needed. No
Okay.
context needed. I can only imagine.
But this is going to make it better.
Exactly. You get to hang out with me.
Yeah.
Of course. Well,
What about you?
you?
You're sounding a little nasally.
So yeah, it's a little nasally, so that's a little context, but I would say, yeah, probably like a 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is going to be great.
We're only hanging on by a thread, but that means that, we're just in the great headspace to address the elephant in the room. So speak to it, Shay.
Today's elephant in the room is what makes you decide it's time for a rebrand?
And we very much so just went through a rebrand. So that just makes us very
knowledgeable on the subject. I think it's a cool episode though, because we get to talk about what the thought process was before we did it. What did our mindset need to be in the middle of it, and how did we end up on the other side?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of pieces and parts to go over there.
Lots of pieces, parts, blood, sweat, tears, highs, lows.
Mostly highs.
Mostly high, of course, mostly highs. But like in the middle, there's some serious
hiccups, if you will.
Yeah, hiccups. And just overall, when you make any sort of large change like this in an organization, even though it's very cosmetic, people are very like emotionally attached to it. So there's so much additional buy-in that you have to get into it. So
and I think for us, it's so much more serious, right? Because we do branding. So when we're going to come to the table and say we're going to do a rebrand, it's kind of like a big deal, or a bigger deal than if we were going to try to change anything else in the company, because we're now changing the ethos of who we are to our clients.
We're now marketing to marketers, and with that comes a lot of
scary
opinions and a lot of just thoughts. And I mean, we're at this point, we become a bunch of cooks in the kitchen. So I think with that being said, like, let's take it from the top of where we were. I know in our last episode, we kind of spoke about the evolution of what made us decide to cut the bottom 20% of our business, but what that looks like for us as far as then how we want to show up once we cut that the bottom 20%.
Yeah. So I think we back up not too far, but just to the end of last year, when we, as a team or as a company, we decided that 2024 is going to be our year of evolution, right? We're going to shake everything up. We're going to do a full reorg. We're going to move buildings again. We're going to change everything. We're going to change everything to set us up for the growth path that we wanted to be on. And with that, we talked a little bit about your journey in, one of our episodes so far, but I think what was really important for us from a catalyst perspective was the understanding of what it was going to take to prepare for the evolution year. So that's where I don't think any of us thought about it. Like, yeah, we set up, the budgets and we figured out the reorg and all those things, but like, what is the preparation required to be able to achieve those goals? And that started for me and you around like October, November of last year, when we had the realization that we weren't prepared from a marketing perspective to go after the initiatives that we were trying to put forward.
Well, exactly. So here's the thing. We pretty organically stumbled our way into some very, very large accounts and grew very like naturally within those. And the level of marketing that we did to achieve that was
minimal,
very, very minimal. And so when we then create this whole department of business development and strategize, okay, how are we going to show up and go to market to, these large corporations that have full branding departments, that have full creative services and all of that. And as a branding agency, like,
it's important.
We have to be able to drink the Kool-Aid that we're serving up. So, we kind of did a bit of an audit to figure out like, where are we at? Like how are we showing up? And it was very surface level at that time, and we'll kind of get to it, but like in the sense of, okay,
what are our competitors doing?
Exactly. What are our competitors doing? But like, how do we feel about our current branding? And I know
there's two elephants in the room in this episode, honestly.
I'm tiptoeing very gently here, but
So
speak to where we were with our old branding and the evolution of the branding up to that point.
okay, so when I come into the company, the logo is set up like a law firm. It's literally just the letters, and it's, SCG and Associates. But all of our website, all of our emails, it was all centered around Team SCG. We were a team. And I think when I got there, I had I have an interest in marketing, but I wouldn't say it's something that like I at the time wanted to spend a lot of my effort on. So I let it be. And then when the pandemic happens and we were bored, truly like bored, my brother and I decided it was a good time for a refresh. So we took, Gen 1's logo
And
and
color.
in color. Well, yeah. Well, we weren't at
Well,
that
then
point. At that point, it was the green, like
well,
a
exactly.
terrible green. But we needed to stay true to something.
It very much so stood out.
Yes. So my brother and I were going to take the initiative to go from SCG and Associates and then actually do a DBA, doing business as Team SCG, and put it through legally and do all of the things that needed to happen. And that gave me my first taste of dipping my toe into the creative water, and coming up with a new logo, like a new icon, new logo, new layout, new format, all of the things. But again, it was minimal. It was something that like I did because I had the downtime, not because I had the skill set or the background or any of those things. And I did an okay job. Went on GoDaddy, built a website, learned how to work Adobe a little bit. So
you very much so did a great job in the sense of
putting it together for someone who had no clue what I was doing
and having people buy into it.
So with that, it worked for what do we think, like 3 years at that point with this rebrand, and people were fine with it. I don't think anyone was going to hurt my feelings. Let's be clear. Like everyone knew that I was the one who put it together. So I needed to get my family on board. Everyone else got on board, and I'm pretty sure no one in their right mind is going to come up to me and say, "Hey, this is hideous." So it flew until I told Savannah that I need her to work on business development, and I believed that marketing went hand in hand there. And Savannah's response was, how much freedom do I have on the marketing side? And that was kind of like the preliminary to you just really coming in. And you presented it well. At the end of the day, I think another big feat for you was you had to get a lot of people on board to rebrand. And rebrands are expensive. Like there is no way around it. When you're going to change your brand and change who you are visibly, internally and externally, it's expensive.
There's nothing expensive. And I knew that it was something when I was going into proposing this that I couldn't just be like, so I hate the logo. I hate the green.
Talk to that a little bit. Like, what was your mindset in knowing that you were going to come not only to the person who created the previous logo, but to an entire group of people who don't think anything's broken, don't want to spend this money, and we have all these other things that we're trying to push forward, and then you want to come and add something else to our plate? Like, speak to that.
So it's funny because once I started taking over the business development department, I started working very closely with one of our lead consultants, and his name's Chuck. He's awesome. But there was a point where we're talking about, okay, so how do we go to market? Like we have this whole strategy of who we want to work with, but how do we market to these people? And we kind of have this meeting where we're kind of like, I don't want to say it, you don't want to say it, but do we need to rebrand here? Do we need to give ourselves a total facelift so we can show up as the branding company that we're essentially talking the talk at this point? Like we're telling everybody, this is how, like, here's your primary logo.
Your brand is your biggest asset.
Icon. Yeah,
that's what we're telling everyone.
Well, exactly. And did we feel as though our brand was our biggest asset at the time?
No, I felt like our team was our biggest asset.
Exactly. And they continue to be, but like this is something that enforces our team. Like this matches the energy that our team brings. This matches, we're preaching a white glove service here, and the handshake and the light bulb weren't giving white glove service. And that's,
I mean, the hands could wear a glove, so I could argue that.
Metaphorically, yes. Visually, aesthetically, so maybe not. So whatever.
On the record, what did you hate more? The color or the handshake? It's on the record.
I know. My
dad's going to watch this.
I know. Sorry, Bear. I'm just gonna say the icon.
That was my part.
No, I know, because you said your dad's gonna watch this. Hi, Barry. On the record, it was the icon, not the color, but it was both equally for me, to be honest. But it was one of those things that like we kind of sat eye to eye and we're like, okay, like this is obviously going to be a very very large lift, and it wasn't going to be something that necessarily I could just like walk and be like, again, like, yeah, I hate this. So like during a visit that he was there, we went in, presented a united front, brought some ideas, some just visual kind of suggestions.
What you're saying is you brought in backup.
Well, exactly. Backup and ammo to show like this is where we are, this is where we can go.
So okay, so let's fast forward here. So you get us on board. We decide, okay, we're going to move forward with the rebrand. We don't have a built out creative or graphics team at this point. So it's really kind of you're pulling some resources from outside. You're doing some different things to get us ready. And then we figure out that we're going to build the departments together. So we're going to build business development and marketing at the same time. We onboard someone to come on to the team as of January to help you with these initiatives.
Yes.
His name's Parker.
He's amazing.
Great guy.
Great guy.
And gave us a lot of different perspective on how to actually execute on some of these things that we wanted to do.
Exactly. He came in, he did a lot of research, and it was very helpful because he wasn't somebody that was in our immediate industry, and our industry is so ambiguous. So marketing our industry is, we sell stuff. People say we sell pens, even though that's just literally like a drop in the bucket of what we do. But like he was able to do a whole audit on what is going on in the industry, how the best people are showing up to market, and kind of then see, okay, where do we fit in this?
Yeah.
And I mean,
watching those wheels turn though was something that I had never seen before. And it was something that, when I'm looking at my thought process and the rebrand right before this one, there was no strategy behind it. It was like, I wanted to change it. I wanted to go from SCG and Associates to Team SCG. And we were always, we wanted to be creative, and partnership was at the top of our priority.
Of
so
course.
It made sense, but it wasn't strategic. And I think that's what got me on board when it came down to the decision-making side, was I really wanted to see what the brand could do with some strategy behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The funny part of all of this was not like, yeah, obviously the logo took a long time. Figuring it all out, what we were going to do and how we were going to do it took a long time. But the color.
Oh my gosh.
How many shades of green?
How many shades of green
did we go through before we landed? Like, and obviously, like you guys are saying, this is more blue than green. It can be considered maybe like a blue-green, teal, if you will.
There's been a lot of heated discussions about this color.
But I think would you agree that like that was probably our color palette was one of the hardest things for us to land on?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say we went through 50 shades of green. But yeah, no. And it was one of those things too, where we didn't want to completely scrap the previous brand. Like we wanted to pull in like little Easter eggs from the brand, because there's so much heritage and there's so much culture that we've developed through the previous brands.
Yeah. It's our legacy, right? Like
exactly.
It's something that we don't want anyone to ever forget where we're coming from, because that built our foundation.
Exactly. We wanted to modernize it in a way that we were proceeding to modernize literally every other piece of our company. It's funny because originally when we like put it together, or, started talking about this, it's, how do we describe how we value what we do? And what kept coming up was, we see our craft as a work of art, and, it becomes a masterpiece. There's so many intricate things that go into creating a masterpiece, a work of art that is, sometimes literally showing up as a notebook. And most people be like, oh yeah, this notebook's great. But it takes a real brand connoisseur, if you will, to understand all of the different things that have to go right in order to make that notebook become that work of art. Hence, the art of branding.
I think that's a good play there, because that's one of the biggest things we changed. We went from being Team SCG Branded Solutions, which Branded Solutions was our tagline for a very long time, and changing our tagline to the art of branding is what made everybody buy in. I think that was like that one piece of, yes, that's what we want to identify as. We want this to be an art. This is not something that we do, halfway. We give our everything into all of our projects, and it really is, like you said, like it comes out as a masterpiece.
Yeah, you might see it as a 50-cent pencil, but we see it as a work of art. And that's like everybody felt that. Like
I think
our whole
that's where the
team,
buy-in really came from.
exactly. Everybody felt that. And with marketing, it's not necessarily, and it's so funny, like going through some of the motions, it's not necessarily the cosmetic like changes that you're making. It's what feelings are those cosmetic changes providing to the people, the stakeholders of it all, the people that have to, show up and wear that logo every day, that have to, send out a link to their website and be like, I'm proud of this, or like, hey, like maybe actually don't check our website. Like we just handle everything through our email, which kind of was a story that we kind of told for a while of like, yeah, our website's just kind of there.
Our website's there as a resource. Don't necessarily utilize it. And I think
exactly.
So to break this out, we obviously had to start out in sections, and we determined at this point now that Q1, instead of it being a full sprint when it comes to business development, we were going to pause and say, halt. No business development until we feel good about our go-to-market strategy, which the rebrand has to be fully ironed out before we get started. So we spent all of Q1 getting ready to launch, and we launched on April 1st.
My wedding anniversary.
Yeah, and also April Fool's Day.
Also April Fool's Day. Also the beginning of Q2.
It's like a lot of things on that day.
Lots of things on April 1st.
But we did it. We launched on April 1st, and that was kind of the turning point, I think, for us gearing up for the momentum that we needed for Q2. And now we're obviously right in the middle of Q3. So I think the other piece of this to talk about from your end is our website. So we took a website that I built from a templated version on GoDaddy. It gave you a picture. It was essentially a landing page. It gave you a picture of what we do, how we do it, what our team looks like. Talk about your vision for the website as a whole, not only aesthetically, but you really put a lot of function into the website that we didn't have before.
Well, so yes, and this was also something that like I worked very closely hand in hand with Parker to put together. He is a website
guru.
Phenom. Yeah. Phenom, guru, all the things.
Speaks a whole freaking language.
Exactly. He speaks a language in which like I do not, and it's native to him, and he's awesome. But it was something, and I guess even kind of like rewind a little bit, was once he came on, we had this realization that we didn't have a fully baked graphics team. And so he actually had a friend who is extremely talented, and he brought him on to build out our creative marketing department. That then in turn,
and Billy, his first project was getting our website ready.
Exactly. Putting together the brand guidelines. So Parker brings on Billy. Billy's his friend. And especially with hiring friends, it's like, but we ran him through some tests before like bringing him on, and we're like, wow, actually this kid is very talented and he's amazing. But the first order of business for him to come on and do was put together the brand guidelines after we agreed on the colors, the logo, all the things.
We landed on our shade.
Exactly. We landed on one of 50 shades of green. And, it was put together the brand guidelines as well as visuals for the website. But as far as like building out some sort of funnel with the website that people could just go to, get a general understanding of what we do, how to do, and also next steps. How do you connect with us? How do you feel like you're not going to a dead end once you get to a website? And that like, so many people now have these like contact forms or whatever that like, you're just kind of like, okay, I'm literally never going to hear from this person ever. Even if I fill this out, why waste my time? We wanted to create something that could then be used as a tool to bring us business and attract business that people could look at and be like, oh, branding, love that.
The other thing we needed to change that was like a big deal for us is we went from a website that displayed client logos, and in 24 we reaffirmed a lot of NDAs, and we decided that at this point it made more sense for us to have full disclosure in terms of who we're working with from a website facing perspective. And I think it was really interesting having you deal with that too. Like, how do we tell our story without telling everybody who we're doing this for? And I thought that was a really interesting approach. Like, we had to do the minimalist, we don't kiss and tell. So
exactly.
What say you there?
So honestly, it's very, very counterintuitive to not stand on the shoulders of these massive, massive corporations in which we work with and say, hey, we work with XYZ, because essentially
that gives us immediate credibility.
That's our authority right then and there. But rather, again, we value our partnerships so much more than anything else that we sign NDAs, and so many people don't. I mean, to do large business with these corporations, 9 times out of 10, you're signing an NDA because they don't want that liability of you promoting their
brand,
their corporation,
and they want it to be,
they don't want you to know how the sausage is made. So, and we're making the sausage over here. So,
and I also think there's another element of like what we do for them is meant to be held close to the belt. Like
exactly.
This is not something that they want advertised. This is something that is very personal to each brand that we work with. And like you said, almost every large distributor has NDAs. It's just how seriously are they taking them?
Exactly. Most of the times these large corporations have a million other bigger fish to fry. And so
no one cares if you're putting their logo on their website.
Nobody cares if you're putting their logo on their website. However, we wanted to be able to tell the story of, hey, we actually do value your NDAs. We do value
discretion is key.
Exactly. We are like very discretion-based partners. So we're not going to advertise that we're working with X, Y, and Z. We'll speak around it and speak to the caliber of projects that we're doing through, just kind of industry talk. But it's one of those things that that's not what we're going to lead with. People will start a conversation with us, and more will build that credibility with them, because that's how we've gotten to where we are. And it's something that does, it's not the most, most people aren't using that strategy. We'll just say that. And that's why we wanted to be different. We wanted to be different with that.
So I think it's a good segue at this point. So now you have the rebrand done, the website's done. We go live on April 1st. How do you feel like the marketing efforts played into now your new mindset of, okay, I have my ammo. I have what I need to go to market. Now I'm going to market. Like, did that just give you a whole new level of confidence?
Well, absolutely. It's one of those things that I feel like, I have my own personal brand. Everybody has their own personal brand. And to be able to attach myself to something that I am extremely confident in. I was very confident in the company before. Clearly, it's my livelihood. But to be able to be like, okay, go to this website, to be able to say okay, I'm actually just going to shoot you an email from my personal email, or, my work email, and have all the branding be cohesive, and go check out this, let me send you a whole box of SCG self promo now, and it's very chic. It's something that I'm very confident in. And I know that aside from just my own personal bias on this, I was obviously heavily involved. Our internal team has given us extremely positive feedback. Our clients have given us extremely positive feedback. And that's how you know that the success is there.
And we can do a lot with this color palette.
Yeah. We can do a lot with this color palette.
Yeah, I think that the main hesitation that we had at the end of last year was, I think, just the fear. And now that, it's laid out and we're through, I guess, those trenches, it's really exciting to see what we can do with it now from here.
It just feels like the sky's the limit.
I would agree. I would say that there's just a lot more flexibility in our capabilities. And I think that this gave us also good experience to be able to lean on our clients too, and let them know hey, we've actually thought about these things. We have gone through it. We know what to look for. We know, what you're trying to achieve.
Well, because a lot of these large corporations go through the exact same thing.
Rebrands are all the time.
Exactly. It's a very common occurrence, especially with longevity comes evolution. Evolve or die is what they say.
Darwin.
Exactly. Darwin, natural selection, baby. But
before we actually have to wrap this up, I have a real question.
Oh, God.
I know the episode's called 50 Shades of Green. How bad did you want to come to me and ask if we can make this pink? Did it ever cross your mind?
No, Shayna. The thing is, while putting this together, so for those of you that don't know, I am merch girly, and everything that
is pink.
Exactly. I love pink. Pink is my primary color. Elle
Woods, baby pink.
Yes, but I only wear neutrals, and then my one like actual pop of color is pink. It's a rule. It's a very hard boundary for myself. It is my personal brand guideline. But when creating something like this, like,
No,
it's
obviously.
so not about me. And this was like a very, very humbling experience. As I mean, you were there with me. You were there in that room plenty of times where I had to just really like kind of surrender my ego and say, okay,
no, it's hard.
This isn't about, even though I'm putting so much work and effort and whatnot, like it's not about me. And like,
it's hard to
that's
go
why
up.
I didn't bring pink to the table.
I
I did
figured if
once
you would've-
jokingly.
I was gonna say, I figured if you would have started with the pink color palette, we probably wouldn't have had to go through 50 different greens.
Stop.
No, but
nobody would have taken me seriously
it's true.
if I was like, okay, guys, hear me out. We're going pink.
No, yeah, it's true. We would have literally laughed you out the door.
Exactly.
But I think you know, the moral of this story was it was a tough, the big elephant in the room was going up against a room of people who in their heart of hearts did not believe that this was something that we needed to do. And you had to turn every single one of us around and say, like, all of our other goals can be way easier achieved if we started here.
Exactly.
And this was not our starting point.
No, and it's hard when you have a million other expenses that like seem to be prioritized, but this just felt like the thing that we had to do to then show up, like, for those other expenses to be worth it. You know, this is how we show up as the new version. This is how we metaphorically show up as the new version of ourselves, is literally a rebrand. You know, we're doing all this work internally,
and we needed everyone to embrace
the art of branding. Ah, beautiful. I mean, that just puts a bow on it right then and there.
I think everyone from here should just go check out the new website that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into. And give us your feedback. She loves opinions.
I love opinions. I love feedback. I receive it really humbly and gracefully.
No. It took a minute.
It's something that we've definitely worked on. But
okay. I hope everyone loves it.
Yes. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, follow along, and we will,
see you next time.
Au revoir, brand connoisseurs.
Bye-bye.